Good day, and welcome. I am Anime Dreams, and I'm pleased to have you here on this channel, where imagination meets narrative exploration. In today's discussion, we continue our journey into an alternate storyline titled What If Naruko Saved the Fox Kit? Part 2. This series reimagines familiar characters and events, offering a deeper look into how a single change can reshape an entire world. Before we begin, a brief note. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is intended solely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not claim ownership of any anime footage used. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, without further delay, let us begin. It took 3 quiet minutes. Only 3 minutes. As soon as the shimmering dome closed, a soft, muffled sound echoed from within, but it was quickly swallowed by silence. Gaara gently formed a small eye of sand to peek inside, curious and cautious. After only a moment, she closed it again, her expression turning thoughtful rather than alarmed. 3 minutes was all it took. When the glowing chain faded away, Naruko felt a warm, familiar presence settle peacefully inside her once more. "Listen, Q," Naruko said softly in her mind, placing a hand over her heart. "I don't care if he was an enemy. You keep those memories to yourself. Understood?" A deep, rumbling voice replied, calmer than before. "Very well. I will respect your wishes." Naruko smiled. "Thank you." She turned to her friend. "Gaara, whatever you do not open that dome just yet." "Why not?" Gaara asked, tilting her head slightly. The sand shifted ever so slightly, lowering the barrier just enough for a faint breeze to slip through. Across the arena, a few shinobi blinked in surprise, unsure of what they had almost seen, but nothing unpleasant remained. Instead, the dome dissolved into harmless grains of sand that sparkled as they drifted away. Everything was calm. Naruko stretched her arms and said brightly, "Well, that proves 2 important things. Teamwork makes everything easier, and you should always trust your friends." The others nodded, some still amazed, others simply relieved. Just then, Sasuke Uchiha arrived with his teacher, Kakashi Hatake. Sasuke looked around, confused by the strange quiet. "What happened here that everyone's so quiet about?" she called out. No one answered at first. Finally, Shino Aburame stepped forward calmly. "Naruko revealed something important," she said. "She showed great courage, helped protect the village, and reminded us all of what it means to care for others." Sasuke blinked. "Naruko? Really?" Kakashi gave a small smile behind his mask. "It's about time she showed her true colors." Sasuke crossed her arms, still processing everything. "You mean she's been this capable the whole time?" "Yes," Kakashi replied gently. "Naruko has always worked hard. She just never needed to prove it to anyone but herself." Sasuke looked toward the arena, where Naruko was laughing with her friends. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, quietly, she nodded. Meanwhile, later that evening, Naruko was sneaking through the quiet halls near the Hokage's office. The moonlight streamed through the windows, lighting her path. Inside, Hiruzen Sarutobi sat surrounded by tall stacks of paperwork, doing his best to keep everything organized. Naruko peeked around the corner with a playful grin. "Perfect," she whispered. "Just the right time." She stepped inside, cheerful and full of energy. "Old man. Need some help?" Hiruzen looked up, surprised, then smiled warmly. "Ah, Naruko. I was hoping you might come by." Naruko rolled up her sleeves. "Don't worry, I've got this. Together, we'll finish in no time." And as the two worked side by side, the village rested peacefully, safe, warm, and full of quiet hope for tomorrow. The evening air was soft and golden as the Hokage listened carefully. Then a gentle, cheerful voice spoke up. "Evening, Oji-san, long time no see. Would you mind giving us a minute alone?" "Of course," Sarutobi said kindly. With a small gesture, the guards quietly stepped away, leaving the room peaceful. "Now, how can I help you, Naruko? And congratulations on becoming a Chonin." "Thank you, Sandaime-sama," Naruko replied as she stepped forward, her bright eyes shining. "I've come to request a favor." Later that day, Sakura hurried to the bridge, still glowing with excitement. Naruko was amazing, she whispered to herself, practically bouncing. Sasuke sat quietly on the railing, arms crossed. "Where is she?" Sakura asked. Before he could answer, a soft voice drifted through the air like a breeze. What's the matter? Feeling a little grumpy?" Naruko appeared with a gentle shimmer, smiling playfully. Sakura blinked in surprise, and Sasuke frowned, though not as sharply as before. "All right, I'll get straight to the point," Naruko said. "I'm going on a long training journey. It'll take about 4 years, so this is my goodbye for now." Sakura's eyes widened. 4 years? Naruko nodded. "Sakura, I care about you as a friend, truly. And Sasuke, you've got great potential. Just keep working hard." "You could have told me this yourself," came a calm voice. They turned to see Kakashi standing behind them, right on time. Sakura gasped dramatically. "This must be a miracle. Kakashi-sensei is early." Kakashi smiled under his mask. "I'd try to surprise you once in a while." Naruko laughed softly. "I'll miss this." Sasuke looked at her with determination. "When you come back, I want to see how strong you've become." "It's a promise," Naruko said warmly. She looked at all of them one last time. "Take care of each other, okay?" And with that, she shimmered and vanished like sunlight on water. Not far away, under a large tree, Team 8 gathered. Kurenai waited patiently while her students arrived one by one. Just as she was about to begin, a messenger appeared. "Hinata is requested at the Hokage's office." Hinata nodded nervously and made her way there. Inside, she found the Hokage, her father, and Naruko. "Hinata," the Hokage said gently, "please sit." She did, her hands folded neatly in her lap. "I'll be direct," he continued kindly. "You have been chosen for a special 4-year training journey. Your father has agreed. You have 2 hours to prepare and say your goodbyes." Hinata blinked in surprise. Then she noticed Naruko standing nearby, smiling softly. "Why is Naruko here?" she asked. Naruko stepped forward. "Because you won't be going alone." The Hokage smiled. "You'll need a teacher for such a journey." Hinata's eyes grew wide. "Naruko will be my sensei?" "Only if you're comfortable with that," Naruko said gently. Hinata's cheeks turned pink, but she nodded. "I would like that very much." The Hokage chuckled warmly. "Very well. Your time begins now." Hinata spent her 2 hours carefully preparing. She packed her clothes neatly, gathered her essentials, and even tucked away a small bag of cinnamon rolls. She visited her friends, sharing kind words and heartfelt goodbyes. Finally, she stood at the village gate, her fingers fidgeting as she waited. The sky stretched wide and blue above her. Then, like a soft ripple in the air, Naruko appeared. "Are you ready, Hina-chan?" she asked kindly. Hinata nodded, her eyes filled with both excitement and courage. Naruko smiled. "Then let's begin our journey." Together, they stepped forward, leaving the village behind, but carrying its warmth in their hearts, ready to explore the world, learn new things, and grow stronger together. Naruko brushed a strand of golden hair behind her ear as she made her way toward the training grounds. The early morning light filtered through the trees, painting everything in soft shades of green and gold. Hinata walked beside her, quietly curious, her eyes glancing toward Naruko as if to ask what adventure awaited them. After about 30 minutes, they arrived at Training Ground 44, a vast forest filled with towering trees and whispering leaves. It felt mysterious, but not frightening, more like a place where secrets and stories grew together. Hinata tilted her head slightly, her expression gentle and questioning. Naruko smiled warmly. "You'll see," she said, stepping confidently toward the gate. "Hello. We're here." A woman with bright eyes and a lively expression appeared almost instantly. She crossed her arms, though there was a playful spark in her gaze. "No need to shout, you know," she said. Naruko chuckled, rubbing the back of her head. "Sorry about that. We're just excited." The woman shook her head with a small smile. "I can tell. Come on, I'll show you around." She led them deep into the forest, where the sounds of rustling leaves and chirping birds surrounded them like music. Eventually, they reached a wide clearing. In the center stood a massive tree stump, worn smooth by time but sturdy and strong. "This will be your space," the woman said, handing them a couple of folded tents. "Make it your own." With that, she gave them a knowing look and disappeared as quickly as she had come. Hinata held the tents carefully, her cheeks slightly pink. Naruko glanced down at hers, then gently set it aside. "I have an idea," Naruko said with a bright grin. She formed a series of hand signs, her movements smooth and practiced. A soft glow shimmered in the air beside her, forming into a gentle, flowing shape. Soon, a friendly presence appeared, a fox spirit with kind, wise eyes. The spirit floated gracefully, its form glowing like warm sunlight. Without a word, Naruko and the fox spirit approached the giant stump. Naruko drew her special sword, its surface gleaming faintly, and began carving carefully into the wood. The fox spirit shaped a glowing tool of its own and worked alongside her. They worked patiently, their movement steady and thoughtful. After some time, Naruko stepped back, brushing her hands together. "All right, come take a look," she called. Hinata followed her inside and gasped softly. The inside of the stump had been transformed into a cozy home. There were 2 small bedrooms, a warm little kitchen, a shared living space filled with soft light, and even a simple bathing area. "It's not perfect," Naruko said, smiling shyly, "but it should be comfortable." Hinata looked around in amazement. "It's wonderful. How did you do all of this?" The fox spirit spoke gently, its voice calm and reassuring. "Naruko has a very special gift." Naruko nodded, placing a hand on the sword at her side. "This was passed down from my family. It helps me shape my energy in different ways. With it, I can work with nature, like guiding the wood to form this space." She gestured around proudly. "I used a bit of wind to smooth things out and a bit of warmth to make it cozy." Hinata's eyes sparkled. "That's incredible." Naruko laughed softly. "It just takes practice, and a little imagination." The fox spirit carried a small bundle of supplies into one of the rooms, humming quietly. Naruko turned back to Hinata. "Go ahead and pick your room. Make it feel like home." Hinata nodded happily and stepped forward, already imagining how she would arrange everything. Naruko looked around the space they had created together. The forest outside rustled gently, as if approving their work. "Once you're settled," Naruko said kindly, "we'll start training. But don't worry, it'll be fun." And in that peaceful clearing, inside a tree that had become a home, a new chapter of their journey began, one filled with friendship, learning, and quiet moments of wonder. Hanabi Hyuga stood neatly with her team, waiting in line to receive their scroll. They had already passed the first test, and now the second stage of the Chunin exams awaited them, the mysterious Forest of Death. Despite its intimidating name, Hanabi reminded herself to stay calm. She recalled the stories her sister had told her, enormous trees, unusual plants, and strange creatures that filled the forest with wonder and challenge. "Oh well," Hanabi thought quietly, "I'll just have to trust what I remember." At last, Team 23 received their scroll, a heaven scroll. With steady steps, Hanabi led her teammates toward the second gate. Nearby stood Team 22, also known as Team Konohamaru. "Hey, Hanabi," Konohamaru called with a cheerful grin. "Hello, Konohamaru, Moigi, Udon," Hanabi replied politely. "How are things going?" "Pretty good," Konohamaru said, though his eyes sparkled with excitement. Soon, a voice echoed across the area, explaining the rules of the forest. It also mentioned something unusual, the 3 fears of the forest. They were not to be challenged, and were said to be incredibly strong. The warning made everyone pause, but it also stirred curiosity. Once the signal was given, teams rushed into the forest. However, Team 22 quietly followed Team 23, guided by one of Konohamaru's bold ideas. As evening fell, Team 23 set up a small, cozy camp. Just as they were settling in, Team 22 arrived. "We have an offer," Konohamaru said. Hanabi blinked in surprise. She wasn't sure what he was planning, but somehow, she found herself listening closely. "Hanabi," Konohamaru continued, "can you use your Byakugan?" Hanabi nodded and activated her ability. After scanning the area, she spoke softly. "There's someone nearby. A woman. She's carrying a basket and standing near a large tree stump." "Let's go talk to her," Konohamaru said. The 2 teams carefully approached the clearing. The woman stood with her back turned, dressed in a beautiful kimono, her long dark hair flowing gently in the breeze. "Excuse me," Konohamaru began politely, "we're looking for the 3 fears. Do you know where we might find them?" The woman's voice was gentle and warm. "Why would 2 Jinan teams be searching for them?" "Well," Konohamaru said, rubbing the back of his head, "we thought maybe if we worked together, we could succeed. And I want to protect my friends." There was a quiet pause. "That is a wonderful reason," the woman replied. Then, she added softly, "That's why I'll tell you the truth. I am one of them." Everyone froze in surprise. A moment later, 2 more figures appeared nearby. One of them was a bright, cheerful young woman with golden hair and kind blue eyes. She wore an orange outfit that seemed to glow with energy and warmth. "I'm one too," she said with a friendly smile. This was Naruko. The third figure stepped forward with a playful grin. And I'm the last. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Naruko tilted her head slightly and looked closer. Konohamaru? She said. Konohamaru's eyes widened. Naruko? Recognition spread through the group like sunlight breaking through clouds. Hanabi also realized who the first woman was, her own sister, Hinata. Well, Naruko said, laughing softly, this is unexpected. The tension melted away, replaced by warm smiles and surprised laughter. Soon, everyone was sitting together, sharing stories and catching up like old friends. After some time, Konohamaru asked the question on everyone's mind. So, will you give us your scrolls? Naruko exchanged a glance with Hinata and their companion. Then all three shook their heads gently. No, Naruko said kindly. But not because we don't want to help. We believe in you, Hinata added. You should earn it yourselves, the third teammate said with a nod. Naruko leaned forward with a bright grin. But we will help you in another way. We'll guide you safely through the forest. The younger teams brightened immediately. And so, after a shared meal, during which Naruko happily made and enjoyed a large pot of ramen, the group set off together. The journey through the forest became an adventure filled with clever thinking and teamwork. Hanabi used her Byakugan to scout ahead and plan smart strategies. Udon came up with thoughtful ideas, while Moegi encouraged everyone with her determination. Konohamaru led with courage, always thinking of his friends. Naruko, Hinata, and their companions stayed nearby, offering guidance when needed but letting the Genin shine. At one point, they noticed another team struggling nearby. Instead of competing, the Genin chose to help them find their way safely. Naruko smiled proudly at this. That's what being a true ninja is about, she said. Not just strength, but kindness. By the time they reached the tower, both Team 22 and Team 23 had successfully gathered what they needed. At the entrance, they paused. Thank you, Hanabi said sincerely. You did all the hard work, Naruko replied, giving her an encouraging nod. Be proud of yourselves. The team said their goodbyes, though they knew they would meet again. Inside the tower, when the scrolls were opened, a familiar instructor looked up in complete surprise. Naruko? He exclaimed. Naruko waved cheerfully. Hi. It's been a while. We're back. Her smile was bright and full of hope, just like always. And as the next stage of the exams approached, one thing was certain, the new generation of ninja was ready, carrying not just skill, but heart, friendship, and a spirit that would light the way forward. The Hokage Tower was unusually messy that morning. Papers were scattered everywhere, as if a playful wind had danced through the halls. A few workers stood frozen in surprise, unsure how everything had become so chaotic so quickly. Even the usually calm atmosphere felt a little upside down. Naruko stepped inside, brushing a strand of golden hair behind her ear. She looked around with bright curiosity. Aw man, looks like someone got here before me, she said with a light laugh. Oh well, I guess the spot for the 6th Hokage is still open, right? Tsunade, seated in the Hokage's chair, turned slightly, studying Naruko with interest. So this is Naruko? Sarutobi nodded thoughtfully. Yes. I believe so. I was going to say she looks like her father, Tsunade added. Naruko grinned. Yeah, we do look alike. But there's one difference, I'm better. Hinata giggled softly. And very humble too. I heard that, Naruko replied playfully. You were supposed to, Hinata said, smiling. Kyubi, standing nearby in human form, crossed his arms. All right, enough teasing. Let's stay focused until we get home. Naruko stretched her arms. Speaking of home, is the Namikaze estate ready? Almost, Sarutobi replied. We just need your help to fully open it. Got it. But first, I should report on my mission. Naruko's tone became proud yet warm. It was a complete success. She spoke about the past 4 years, about growth, learning, teamwork, and especially Hinata's progress. Her words were filled with encouragement rather than pride, and Sarutobi smiled the entire time. See, Tsunade? He said gently. She makes a wonderful teacher. Naruko blinked, realizing who Tsunade was. So you're the legendary one I've heard about, she said with a friendly grin. Nice to finally meet you. Tsunade smirked slightly. I've heard plenty about you too. Naruko took a small step forward. Actually, I have a suggestion. I think Hinata and I could be more helpful to the village if we formed a new team. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. And why is that? Because everyone grows better when they're given the right space, Naruko explained. Our old teams helped us a lot, but now we can help others grow too, just in a different way. Tsunade considered her words carefully. You make a good point. But teams aren't changed lightly. Naruko's eyes sparkled with a playful idea. Then how about a friendly challenge? Tsunade sighed, though a smile tugged at her lips. What kind of challenge? A simple one, Naruko said. A test of teamwork. No one gets hurt, just skill and creativity. If we succeed, we form a new team. After a moment, Tsunade nodded. All right. You're on. Soon, everyone gathered in a wide open field near a peaceful lake. The air was calm, and the sunlight shimmered on the water. Naruko looked at her friends. Let's show them what teamwork really means. Hinata nodded, her confidence quiet but strong. Together. Kyubi smirked. Always. When the challenge began, something unexpected happened. Instead of rushing forward, Naruko and her team worked with cleverness and care. Gentle illusions, playful distractions, and harmless techniques turned the match into something more like a game than a battle. One group found themselves gently tangled in soft vines that tickled more than restrained. Another became so distracted by shifting lights and colors that they forgot what they were doing entirely. Even the most experienced shinobi couldn't help but laugh at the surprising creativity. Naruko moved gracefully, never striking, only guiding the flow of the challenge. Hinata used her abilities with precision, but softened every move to keep it safe. Kyubi added a bit of dramatic flair, making everything feel like a grand performance. Before long, everyone realized what had happened. The challenge was over. And no one was hurt. Tsunade looked around, impressed. You didn't just win. You taught something. Naruko tilted her head. That strength isn't just about power. It's about understanding, teamwork, and knowing when to be gentle. There was a quiet moment. Then Tsunade smiled. All right. You've earned it. What will your new team be called? Naruko looked at Hinata and Kyubi. They both nodded. She turned back, her smile bright and full of hope. Team Fox. And from that day on, their team became known not just for their strength, but for their kindness, creativity, and the way they made everyone around them better. Naruko had to hand it to them. Her parents truly knew how to live. The mansion, though calling it a mansion almost felt too small, stretched out before her like something from a dream. The single building took up nearly half of the Hyuga compound. It rose 3 stories high, with a basement below, and each level seemed filled with wonders waiting to be explored. There were bathrooms tucked into every corner, likely because of how enormous the house was. A beautiful dojo stood ready for practice, its polished floors gleaming softly in the light. Nearby, gentle steam rose from artificial hot springs, creating a warm and calming atmosphere. There was even a medium-sized indoor lake, its surface smooth like glass, reflecting the ceiling above. As Naruko wandered further, she discovered a bowling alley and a grand library filled from wall to wall with scrolls about jutsu. Naruko clasped her hands together with excitement. She could hardly wait to begin exploring everything. The bedrooms alone were enough to make her pause in amazement. 6 rooms were spread across the first floor, 9 more on the second, and a single grand room rested at the very top on the 3rd floor, the master bedroom. Naruko made a mental note to ask Hinata what she thought about where they should sleep. Finally, she stepped into the kitchen, and stopped in her tracks. It was enormous. It took her more than 10 seconds just to walk across it. Curious, she opened one of the cabinets, and her eyes widened with delight. Inside was a recipe for ramen. She held the paper carefully, smiling. It felt like discovering a small treasure hidden just for her. Later, when Naruko asked Hinata about the sleeping arrangements, Hinata thoughtfully suggested they take separate rooms for now. It seemed like a sensible idea. After such an exciting day, a little quiet rest would do them both good. They chose 2 cozy rooms next to each other on the 2nd floor. Once they had settled in, a messenger from the Hokage arrived. He handed Hinata her new tuning vest, which she accepted with a gentle smile. Turning to Naruko, he explained that after gaining at least a year of experience, she would be considered for the rank of Jounin. Naruko nodded, feeling a mix of pride and determination. She thanked the messenger warmly and asked if there was anything else. He added that they would have a full week off before their team's first mission. A week? Naruko repeated, her eyes lighting up. The messenger nodded with a small smile before heading off. Naruko closed the door and walked into the large living room. A grand fireplace stood along one wall, and comfortable seating filled the space, a pair of soft couches and a large recliner that looked perfect for relaxing after a long day. She sat down beside Hinata, still taking it all in. To think this is just one house, Naruko said softly, glancing around in wonder. We don't even know what else is waiting for us in the rest of the compound. Hinata smiled gently at her. And together, they began to imagine all the new memories they would create in this incredible place. I know, Hinata Hyuga said softly, looking around the large house. It feels like the whole compound is inside one place. I'm almost surprised there isn't a little shop next to my room. There are shops in compounds? Naruko Uzumaki asked, tilting her head curiously. Only sometimes, Hinata replied with a shy smile. But still, that's the one thing missing here. Ah, I see, Naruko said thoughtfully. So that leaves one question. What do you want to do this week? Well, Hinata said, her voice brightening, I know something I'd really like to do. What is it? Naruko asked. Hinata gently leaned closer and wrapped Naruko's arms around her waist. Just sit here together. It's peaceful. Naruko smiled warmly. I like that idea too. They sat quietly, enjoying the calm moment. Just then, someone cleared their throat behind them. Sorry to interrupt, said Kurama, with a slightly dramatic sigh, but there is a very important matter to discuss. Naruko turned. Oh? What kind of matter? Food, Kurama said firmly. Or rather, the lack of usable food. Everything in this house has been sitting there for quite a long time. And I strongly recommend not opening the refrigerator without preparation. Naruko blinked. That bad? Let's just say, Kurama replied, it's an adventure no one wants. Naruko chuckled. Alright, you make a good point. Hinata, how about we go to the market and get fresh supplies? Hinata nodded happily. Yes, I'd love that. But who will clean out the old food? Kurama narrowed his eyes slightly. I think I know where this is going. Well, Naruko said with a playful grin, if we're both going out. Then someone has to stay behind, Hinata finished gently. Kurama sighed. You two are very clever. Come on, Hinata, Naruko said cheerfully. Let's go before he changes his mind. As the door closed behind them, Kurama walked toward the kitchen. He opened the refrigerator very carefully. A strange smell drifted out, and he quickly covered his nose. Oh my, he muttered. This is going to take some effort. Still, with determination, he rolled up his sleeves and began cleaning. Even the strongest helper has to do chores sometimes, he said, trying to stay positive. Meanwhile, Naruko and Hinata walked through the lively market, filled with colors and friendly voices. Naruko carried a special scroll to hold their groceries, while Hinata picked out ingredients for their favorite meals. They gathered noodles, fresh vegetables, and even some sweet treats like cinnamon rolls. As Hinata reached for a can, she gently bumped into someone. Oh. I'm sorry, she said politely. The young man turned around. No, that was my fault, Hinata? Hinata blinked. Neji? It was Neji Hyuga. Naruko looked between them. Wait. Neji? Neji looked at Naruko. Naruko? For a moment, they all just repeated each other's names in surprise until Naruko laughed. Okay, let's pause before we confuse ourselves even more, she said. Neji smiled slightly. Hinata, it's been a while. You look very happy. Hinata's cheeks turned a little pink. Thank you, Neji. Naruko stepped forward with a friendly grin. We're just shopping for fresh food. Want to join us? Neji nodded. I'd like that. And so, the three of them continued through the market together, chatting and laughing, while back at home, Kurama bravely continued his great refrigerator adventure, knowing that, in the end, they would all share a warm and happy meal together. Hey Neji, a bright, cheerful voice called from inside a cozy little shop. Are you coming in here or wa, Hinata? Naruko paused just outside the doorway, her golden hair catching the sunlight as she tilted her head. She smiled to herself. Here we go again, she thought, amused. Inside, Hinata gave a gentle wave. Hey, Tenten. It's been, 4 years? Tenten blinked once, twice, and then quietly swooned onto a nearby cushion. Hinata looked down at her with surprise. Oh. So that's what it feels like on the other end. Neji stepped forward quickly, making sure Tenten was comfortable before turning to Naruko with a calm but knowing look. He leaned in slightly. You might want to take Hinata along before Tenten wakes up, he whispered. Otherwise, you'll be here for quite a while. Naruko chuckled softly and nodded. Got it. Hey, Hinata, she said gently, we should get going. But what about Tenten? Hinata asked, concerned. I'll take care of her, Neji assured her. Don't worry. And it's really good to have you both back. Naruko smiled warmly. It's good to be back. As they stepped outside, Neji added, oh, and Naruko. You might want to avoid most of the Hyuga elders for now. Except Hyashi. Naruko blinked. Why's that? Neji gave a small shrug. They're still adjusting to the favor you did for me. Naruko placed her hands on her hips, her expression bright and confident. Well, they'll just have to get used to it. I'm not planning on slowing down anytime soon. Hinata giggled softly as they continued walking through the village streets. Throughout the day, Naruko and Hinata met many familiar faces, friends from different teams, each reunion filled with laughter, surprise, and warm welcomes. By the afternoon, Hinata's eyes sparkled with an idea. Let's have a slumber party, she said suddenly. Naruko raised an eyebrow, then grinned. A slumber party, huh? Sounds fun. As long as nothing gets broken. Hinata nodded eagerly and began inviting everyone. When they arrived home, they were greeted by a rather unusual sight. Kyubi stood proudly beside a brand new refrigerator, its surface shining. Trust me, he said, folding his arms with a satisfied nod, this was a much better idea. Naruko glanced around. Where's the old one? Kyubi paused for a moment, then answered simply, at the dump. Naruko gave him a curious look but didn't press further. All right then. Let's put everything away. With a playful grin, she clapped her hands together. Ready? In an instant, the room filled with soft puffs of smoke as Naruko created several shadow clones. Hinata followed suit, and even Kyubi joined in. Together, they moved like a well-practiced team, catching flying groceries, organizing shelves, and tidying up in a blink. Soon, everything was perfectly in place. Naruko stretched her arms and laughed. What would we do without teamwork? As night fell, the house transformed into a cozy haven. Soft blankets covered the floor, pillows were stacked high, and warm lights filled the room with a gentle glow. One by one, the guests arrived. Ino sat by the window, happily brushing Hinata's long, dark hair. Sakura flipped through a magazine nearby, occasionally glancing up with a smile. Then came a knock at the door. Who is it? Hinata called. Your favorite weapons expert, came Tenten's cheerful voice. Come in. Ino replied. Tenten stepped inside, looking around with delight. Wow, this looks amazing. Now that you're here, Ino said playfully, we can really get started. The girls gathered in a circle, chatting and laughing. So, Ino began with a mischievous smile, let's talk about you two. Hinata blinked. Us? Yes, you and Naruko, Sakura added with a grin. Hinata's cheeks turned pink. Oh. Ino leaned forward. You're lucky, you know. Naruko is kind, brave, and always makes everyone smile. Sakura nodded thoughtfully. She really does light up the room. Across the house, Naruko paused as she heard faint laughter drifting from the party room. She smiled softly to herself, feeling grateful. She didn't need to hear every word to know something special was happening. Leaning against the wall, she looked up at the night sky through the window, her eyes shining with quiet happiness. Yep, she whispered, this is what home feels like. A soft knock sounded at the door. Who is it? Hinata Hyuga asked gently. Here's a hint, came a cheerful voice. I have two tails, I'm a fox, and my name's Taratika. All right, come on in. The door slid open, revealing a small fox about waist high, dressed in a beautifully patterned kimono. Her eyes sparkled with kindness. So why are you here? Hinata asked. Naruko Uzumaki wants to know if you would all be okay if she took a long walk tonight. Hinata smiled. Of course. We'll be just fine. Very well, Hinata-sama, Taratika said with a polite bow. I'll go tell Naruko-sama. Hinata tilted her head. One more thing, why didn't Naruko come herself? Taratika giggled softly. She didn't want to interrupt your quiet evening. She thought it would be more polite to ask from afar. Well then, enjoy your night. With that, the little fox padded away. She's such a sweet girl, Hinata murmured. At that moment, Sakura Haruno stood up, looking puzzled. Who was that? Oh, that was Taratika, Hinata explained. One of our fox companions. Fox companions? Tenten echoed. Hinata nodded. Yes. Kurama helped us form a bond with them. They visit sometimes and bring messages. We really do have a lot to learn, Sakura said with a small laugh. Dash. Meanwhile, under the quiet glow of lanterns, Naruko walked along the peaceful streets of the village. The night air was cool, and the stars shimmered above her. You're very thoughtful, Kurama's voice echoed gently in her mind. Naruko smiled. I just wanted everyone to have a peaceful evening. You could have stayed and talked with them, Kurama replied. I will tomorrow, she said. Tonight, I just wanted to think. She paused, breathing in the night air. Something felt familiar. I think someone's here, Naruko said softly. From the shadows stepped Sasuke Uchiha, his expression calm but serious. I heard you returned, he said. Naruko turned toward him with a warm smile. It's been a while, Sasuke. I wanted to talk, he admitted. Not to argue. Just to understand. Naruko nodded. Then let's talk. They sat together on a quiet bench beneath a tree. For a moment, neither spoke. I've been thinking a lot, Sasuke said finally. About choices. And what kind of person I want to be. Naruko listened carefully. I used to believe strength came from being alone, he continued. But now, I'm not so sure. Naruko's eyes softened. Strength can come from many places. But the kind that lasts usually comes from caring about others. Sasuke looked down at his hands. Do you really believe people can change? I do, Naruko said gently. I believe people can grow, just like trees. Even if they start small or bent, they can still reach toward the sky. Sasuke let out a quiet breath. Then, I want to try. Naruko smiled brightly. That's all anyone can ask. The wind rustled the leaves above them, and for the first time in a long while, everything felt calm. Thank you, Naruko, Sasuke said. Anytime, she replied. As they sat together under the stars, the village felt warmer, as if it, too, believed in new beginnings. It was the morning of the 5th day of their week off, and Naruko Uzumaki was happily enjoying the peaceful indoor lake. The water shimmered softly under the light, making the whole place feel calm and magical. Nearby, Hinata was practicing her water-based techniques, using the lake as her training ground. Shield of water no jutsu. Hinata called gently. A smooth dome of water rose around her, sparkling like glass. One of her shadow clones tossed a small practice shuriken toward her. It touched the dome and slowed down, drifting harmlessly through the water until it settled near her feet. Mizu Bunshine no Jutsu, Hinata continued. The dome reshaped itself into a graceful water clone that stood beside her. Together, Hinata and her watery partner moved forward, playfully trying to tag the shadow clone, who darted around with quick, light steps. Naruko watched from the edge of the lake, her eyes shining with excitement. She cheered softly, enjoying the friendly practice. The shadow clone eventually tapped the water clone, causing it to splash back into the lake like a puddle. Hinata smiled and flipped backward with 3 neat cartwheels, creating space between herself and the clone. Taking a calm breath, she formed another set of hand signs. Blade of water no jutsu, she said. A gentle arc of water swept forward like a ribbon. The shadow clone hopped over it with ease, landing lightly on her feet. Encasing ice boots no jutsu. Hinata added. A thin layer of ice formed around the clone's feet, holding her in place, not tightly, but just enough to pause the game. Naruko laughed warmly. That's so clever, she said, clapping her hands. Hinata nodded and continued, disintegrating water bubble no jutsu. This time, instead of anything harsh, a stream of water formed into soft, floating bubbles that drifted toward the shadow clone. When they touched her, they popped into gentle splashes, signaling the end of the round. The shadow clone smiled and gave a thumbs up before disappearing in a small puff. Naruko stepped closer to the water's edge. That looked like so much fun. Can I try next? She asked eagerly. Hinata smiled kindly. Of course, Naruko. Let's practice together. And so, under the soft glow of the indoor lake, the two friends continued their training, learning, laughing, and encouraging each other every step of the way. You know, you really should learn some non-water-based ninjutsus, Naruko said as she stepped onto the synthetic shore, her bright eyes sparkling with mischief. And why is that? Hinata asked, adjusting her one-piece bathing suit. What would you do if there wasn't a lake nearby? Naruko teased, brushing a lock of her short blonde hair behind her ear. I don't know. Bring water with me, maybe? Hinata said, giggling. So, you're going to wear a water gourd on your back like Gaara? That would ruin your figure, Naruko said with a grin. She spread out a towel and sat down, letting the sun warm her skin. Well, what do you suggest? Hinata asked, sitting beside her. Well, Naruko said thoughtfully, I've taught you the Rasengan before. Why not try some other namikaze techniques? We have the whole library downstairs, full of scrolls and secrets waiting for us. You know what? I'd like that, Hinata said with a warm smile. She leaned forward and kissed Naruko gently. Naruko kissed back, her laughter mingling with the sound of soft waves from the artificial lake. Naruko sighed contentedly. I love you. I love you too, Hinata replied. Hey. I know you've told me 1,000 times, but could you tell me again when you first fell in love with me? Naruko sighed in mock exasperation but smiled. Fine, she said. It was 12 years ago, when we first met. Flashback. A young girl walked along a quiet pathway in the park, her golden hair catching the sunlight. Her smile was bright, but her eyes held a flicker of loneliness. Stupid orphanage. Can't even tell the difference between a fox and a girl. She muttered under her breath as she passed a little swing set. She barely noticed the small figure swaying gently on the swings until a soft scent of lilacs drifted to her nose. Her curiosity piqued, she turned and saw a girl with pale lavender eyes and short midnight hair. The sunlight touched her face in such a way that she looked almost like an angel. Naruko turned away quickly. She knew she couldn't afford to get attached. Her presence in the village always drew whispers, and she didn't want anyone else to get hurt because of her. But try as she might, she couldn't resist glancing back one more time. One look at the little girl, and something inside her heart changed forever. That was all it took. Naruko remembered that moment even now, smiling as she held Hinata's hand by the lakeshore. 12 years, and the feeling had only grown. Love, she realized, didn't care about fears or rules, it simply bloomed, quietly, steadily, like lilacs in spring. Later that night, Naruko was haunted by dreams of a beautiful girl who smelled like lilacs. After 3 nights of these dreams, she could no longer bear the curiosity. I have to know who she is, she whispered to herself as the moonlight spilled across her room. The following night, she snuck into the library. During the day, she had carefully planned her route, memorizing the guard shifts and the quietest corridors. She pored over every book that mentioned pale eyes and discovered the Byakugan. As she read, she learned that the Byakugan was the special gift of the Hyuga clan, a mysterious power passed down through generations. Her heart raced with excitement. The more she read about the clan, the more she felt a strange, warm affection for the girl she had seen in her dreams. Finally, after weeks of diligent research, she found a name, Hinata Hyuga. Naruko whispered it softly, as though speaking it aloud might make the girl appear before her. The name itself felt like a song carried on a gentle breeze. Flashback end. When I found my father's box, 4 years later, there was a letter inside saying we were promised to each other. I was overjoyed, someone as wonderful as her could be mine, if she wished it too. Naruko's lavender eyes met Hinata's, shimmering with sincerity. The first time I saw you watching me, my heart leapt. And from that moment, I began to care for you with all my being. But you couldn't show it because of the villagers, Hinata said, almost as if reading from memory, her voice gentle. No, I couldn't, Naruko said softly. If you had been openly the object of my affection, any small mistake could have brought danger from the villagers. I had to protect you, even if it meant pretending otherwise. But seeing you watch me, caring for me even when I followed Sakura, I realized you loved me for who I truly am, and I could never thank you enough for that. Later that day, Naruko, Hinata, and Kyubi gathered to explore new jutsus for Hinata. They examined many wind-based techniques, as Hinata had discovered a second affinity for wind while training with Naruko. This made learning the Namikaze family jutsus much easier. Okay, let's try this one, Naruko said, handing Hinata a scroll. The Vortex Punch no Jutsu, Hinata read aloud. B rank ninjutsu. It creates a powerful vacuum around the user's fist, attracting anything within 2 feet. It also makes the punch seem super strong, and can even grab things that are just out of reach. She studied the hand signs and the wind's shape carefully. I'll try it and see how it suits me. Naruko nodded. Q, add it to the list. Then, turning to Hinata with another scroll, she asked, how about this one? Kaze no Yaiba, Hinata read. A rank ninjutsu. This technique creates a blade out of wind. Being wind, it's impossible to block. Unlike Kamaitachi no Jutsu, it needs no tools. This one looks promising. Do you think that's enough? Naruko asked. It better be enough. Kyubi chimed, balancing 10 scrolls in his arms. Hinata laughed. Yeah, I think that's enough. Good. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to bed, Naruko said, pointing to the clock. 10 p.m. already. Hinata's eyes widened. Already? Over the next 2 days, Hinata trained tirelessly with her new techniques. By the end, she had chosen 4 favorite jutsus: the Vortex Punch, Kaze no Yaiba, Whirlwind of Kunai, and its powerful sister, the Great Whirlwind of Kunai. Then, the Hokage summoned them. Naruko, Hinata, and Kyuubi dressed in their ninja gear, each carrying kunai and weapons, with the fox blade at Naruko's side. As they entered her office, the Hokage gave a half-smile mixed with sternness. You may have won our bet, she said, but you still need to prove yourselves as a team before thinking about taking a mission on your own. Naruko and Hinata exchanged determined glances, excitement and courage shining in their eyes. Together, they would face whatever challenges awaited, side by side, hearts full of friendship, trust, and wonder. Naruko's eyes widened beneath her mask. What? How on earth are we supposed to do anything when we can't even reach our full potential? Calm down, Naruko, Hinata said gently, her voice like a soft breeze. She probably has a good reason for holding us back. Tsunade sighed, while Sarutobi quietly thanked the heavens for not being the one stuck in this mess. Luckily, their third teammate stepped forward, crossing her arms with a smirk. Enough. Both of you. Geez, you're acting like children. She's testing our abilities as a team, how we work together and how we cooperate with others. The two of them exchanged glances, then turned to the reigning Hokage, who merely nodded. Apparently, you're the brains of the team, Tsunade remarked, looking at Kyuubi. Kyuubi gave a sly grin. I like to think so, anyway. Okay, Naruko said, brushing back her hair and trying to calm herself. So, who are we paired with? You'll be going with Team 8 on a C-rank reconnaissance mission, Tsunade replied. And where are they? Naruko asked, already bouncing on her toes with excitement. They'll be here shortly, Kurenai answered calmly. A wide grin spread across Naruko's face. Then would you mind if we disappeared for a second? Just then, Kiba walked into the Hokage's office, barely paying attention to the chatter around him. Then something caught his eye. Your team will be paired with the newly formed Team Fox. They've just disappeared, but they'll be back shortly. Before she could finish, the room filled with a puff of smoke. A distant howl echoed, and suddenly, a six-tailed fox, the size of a horse, appeared with a cheerful roar. Naruko was riding atop it, laughing joyfully as if this were the most normal thing in the world. Behind them, a larger-than-life nine-tailed fox materialized, but Naruko didn't flinch. With a twinkle in her eye, she called back, "Was that short enough, Hokage-sama?" As the fox she rode vanished in another puff of smoke. Very impressive, Tsunade said, shaking her head, but don't make a habit of it. Hey, Q, Hinata said, looking up at the fox who had now shrunk into a more manageable size, you really should go last next time. Only one of them even saw my entrance. Well, excuse me, Kyuubi said, dripping with playful sarcasm. Hinata let it slide and waved to her former teammates. Hi, Shino, Kiba. Looks like we'll be getting a few more missions together. Naruko studied them carefully. Shino seemed calm and reliable, but Kiba? She knew he would be a handful. Oh well, she muttered, I'll just have to keep him in line if he causes trouble. Akamaru and Kyuubi sniffed each other like curious puppies, circling cautiously. Thankfully, Kyuubi had shrunk to a friendlier size, so it looked more like a game than anything else. Kurenai watched the scene unfold with a knowing sigh. This is going to be interesting, she murmured. All right, Naruko called, clapping her hands together, you have 1 hour to get ready. Meet at the village gate when you're done. She dashed off, Hinata and Kyuubi right behind her. Tsunade placed her hands over her face. Why did I take this job again? Sarutobi chuckled softly. You wanted to witness this young ninja, who's destined for great things, and be the one to officially hand her the Hokage's hat. Tsunade groaned. What was I thinking? Naruko packed her things carefully, clothes, toiletries, a favorite book, and, of course, several packets of ramen. Satisfied, she waited in the hallway for her companion. Hinata appeared shortly after, carrying her own bag, while Kyuubi strolled out leisurely, not needing anything at all. The group gathered at the village gate as Kiba, Shino, and Kurenai arrived right on time. Our mission, Kurenai began, is to observe a meeting between a Kumo Chunin and an Iwa Chunin. We do not interfere, unless we are attacked. Then, only defend yourselves. Kyuubi's ears perked up. Sounds fun. I haven't met an Iwan ninja in ages. Kiba's eyes widened, clearly intimidated by Kyuubi's enthusiasm. All right then, Naruko said with a grin, picking up her bag. Let's go. Hinata nudged her former teammates forward. Come on, don't dawdle. Kurenai shook her head with a sigh. What have you done to my student, Naruko? And with that, the two teams set off, ready for a day of adventure, laughter, and teamwork. The air was filled with possibility, and Naruko couldn't wait to see what surprises awaited them beyond the village gates. Guys, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this content and found it entertaining and insightful. Your support means a lot, so if you liked what you saw, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future updates. By subscribing, you'll stay connected and be among the first to explore new content, discussions, and everything we have planned ahead. Thank you for being here and for your continued support. It truly makes a difference and keeps this community alive and growing. Regards. Anime Dreams.